Good evening. I declare the agenda briefing meeting open at 6 p.m. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting today is being held on Whadjuk Noongar Budja, and I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I thank all past and present members of the community that have supported the city to better understand and value Noongar culture within the city of Wanneroo. I invite you to bow your head in prayer. Lord, we thank you for blessing our city, our community and our council. Guide us all in our decision-making to act fairly, without fear or favour, and with compassion, integrity, wisdom and honesty. May we show true leadership, be inclusive of all, and guide all of the city's people and many families to a prosperous future that all may share. We ask this in your name. Amen. Please note that the audio-visual proceedings of tonight's meeting will be live broadcast online with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors. The broadcast of the proceedings of the meeting can be accessed live and on demand through the City of Wanneroo YouTube channel. Please note that the projector in the chamber is not working this evening and administration will not be able to project documents onto the screen. Administration is working on resolving this issue before the next ordinary council meeting. Councillors, staff, members of the public here tonight and those joining us online, at the council meeting on the 24th of March, I adjourned the meeting for a short time. After formally closing proceedings, I made a remark under my breath while my microphone was still live, which was not heard in the chamber. I sincerely apologise to anyone who may have been offended, and I want to emphasise that the comment was made whilst the meeting was in recess. I now go to item 1, attendances. We have no electronic attendance. We have apologies from Councillor Marizanne Moore, who's on parental leave, Councillor Sinette Coetzee, who's an apology, and Councillor Seif. I see that Councillor Smith has just arrived. I think Councillor Bedworth is on his way from work at this moment in time, so we'll keep an eye on that. Deputations. 1. Deputations must relate to a report on the current agenda briefing agenda. A deputation is not to exceed 3 speakers in number and only those speakers may address the council members. Speakers of a deputation will collectively have a maximum of up to 10 minutes, dependent on the number of deputations received, to address the council members unless an extension of time is granted. A deputation is to be in the form of a statement and no debate or discussion on the matter is to occur. Questions from council members relating to the subject matter should be reserved until the administration has presented on the relevant report during the meeting. However, a point of clarification by a council member on a specific statement may be permitted. Public questions are not heard at the agenda briefing meeting and will be heard at an ordinary council meeting. The following deputations have been confirmed and each deputation has 10 minutes to address the council members on their nominated items. Please keep in mind of that when you're making your deputation. And the item is about amendment number 234 to District Structure Plan number 2, proposed rezoning of 50 Salerno Drive, Mindarie. And the person giving the deputation is Alex Jarvis. Thank you, Mr. Jarvis.
Sorry, Mayor, if I may, I'm going to declare a conflict of interest in this one and step out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor
Excuse
Smith.
me, Mayor, before we go to deputations, may I say something?
Sorry, we will follow the process of the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Berry. Mr. Jarvis, will you go ahead with your deputation?
Yes, thank you very much. And good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. As you've just heard, my name's Alex Jarvis from CLE Town Planning and Design. And I just wish to speak briefly tonight in support of the proposed scheme amendment applicable to 50 Salerno Drive, Mindarie, to rezone the site to residential. I am here tonight with Bill Carmody from Tomahawk Property and also Benjamin Lomas, the principal from the adjoining Peter Moyes Anglican Community School. And so as council may recall, this amendment was initiated for advertising by the council back in September 2025 and has since been subject to its public consultation period. To briefly reiterate our comments, we think this is a great opportunity for residential infill in the city. As a consolidated 2.7 hectare site with no direct interface to existing residential development, it provides a unique opportunity to deliver coordinated infill development. The site has convenient access to Marmion Avenue via Quinns Road and Salerno Drive, as well as access to a range of established amenities, including Gumblossom Park and the Quinns Village Shopping Centre. Regarding the planning framework itself, the amendment is consistent with key policy documents, including the objectives of the city's local housing strategy and the draft local planning strategy, both of which seek to promote housing density in appropriate locations to support state government objectives and better utilise existing infrastructure and amenities. We believe the proposed R40 density code strikes the right balance of low to medium density infill that will ensure future development is in keeping with the established low density character of Quinns Rocks and Mindarie. We understand there was some discussion at the September council meeting, as well as in a small number of submissions received, regarding concerns about an increase in traffic as a result of this amendment. The site is currently zoned private community purpose and has long been intended to accommodate a private school expansion or other complementary commercial use. The rezoning of this site to residential responds to these concerns and will result in a reduction in traffic generation compared to what would otherwise occur under the existing zoning of the site. This is reflected in the traffic assessment provided in support of the amendment and also as outlined in the officer report. It is also important to note that we are currently seeking a rezoning of the land only, with any future subdivision or development to be subject to further assessment, including matters related to traffic and access. Ultimately, rezoning the site to residential is considered logical, consistent with the planning framework, and importantly, will help to deliver additional and well-located land to support housing supply. We would therefore appreciate Council's support for the scheme amendment at the upcoming Council meeting later this month. And otherwise, Madam Mayor, Council members, we appreciate your time, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any other deputations from the chamber, from the community? If there are no other deputations, I'll now go to the Planning and Sustainability Directorate. Thank you. Mr. Lee, are there any items on your items in this agenda you wish to speak to? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, no items in particular to speak to, but both myself and the Manager of Approval Services are happy to answer any questions elected members may have.
Thank you. Councillors, do I have any questions on item 4.1? If there are no questions on item 4.1, we now go to item 4.2. Councillor Smith, do you want to leave the room again before we ask questions on item 4.2? Thank you. Deputy Mayor Miles, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions on this one, just for the record, please, Mayor. In the report, I just want to understand, it says on page 52 that the main roads are wanting the classification of Marmion Avenue changed in the MRS, and you've stated that you would be requesting state planning to deal with that. What sort of a classification would need to be done?
Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, perhaps before answering questions, and it might actually be one I request the Director of Assets to provide feedback on, I'd just like to make a declaration of interest on the item.
Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Thank you. With regard to item 4.2, amendment number 234, proposed rezoning of 50 Salerno Drive, Mindarie, I disclose that between 2012 to 2016, I was employed by the consultancy who prepared the scheme amendment, and a family member attends a school that is nearby the subject site. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected, but I can declare that I've advised on and considered the matter on its merits.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And the response to the question, Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just seek a bit of clarification? Is that about the responsibility of Marmion Avenue, or is this a classification, please?
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. No, it just says on the report that the future reclassification of Marmion Avenue under the MRS needs to be done. Main roads are requesting that to be done. And I just wondered what needs to be done to reclassify the road under the MRS.
Thank
Mr
you, Mayor. I
Lee.
think that is more for Mr. Lee to respond. I think if you're looking from responsibility and classification point of view, I can advise council that Marmion Avenue is managed by Main Roads. It's a state road, as mentioned in the report.
Mr Lee.
Thank you, Mayor, through you, and thank you for the clarification. The question probably is a more planning-related one rather than an infrastructure-related one. But what would be required would be a request that the city would put forward to effectively amend the Metropolitan Region scheme. The reclassification, I believe, would be to identify Marmion Avenue, at least that section of Marmion Avenue, as primary regional road. Main Roads, I believe, would drive that process. We would be involved in, so far as we would be an agency that's consulted on, but ultimately it would be a decision of the Commission and the Minister for Planning.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Deputy Mayor Miles.
Thank you, Mayor. My other question, Mr. Lee, is on the same page. Under the Department of Education's response, it says that the Mindarie Primary School is currently operating above capacity. Why would the Department of Education tell us that one of their schools is over capacity, and what influence does that have on this particular site?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I think in looking at the submission that the Department of Education provided, I think the thrust of their comments came from a comment that's made in the scheme amendment report that the applicant submitted around the access to the oval at Mindarie College. The Department of Education clarified that that oval is not accessible out of hours for public use, and then went on to make the observation that there is an oversubscription, if you like, of the Mindarie Primary School to demonstrate that there is perhaps a need for more school infrastructure, but also to make the point that any rezoning of a property to create more population would increase the catchment for Mindarie Primary School. So I suppose the link would be that there would be a population increase here, estimated if you look at the subdivision concept, which has about 55 lots, so 55 dwellings, that translates to a household population of around 150. If you look at the proportion of primary school age children is about 10%, and so you would generate about 15 to 20 primary school age children from this subdivision, and they would fall in the catchment of Mindarie.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Miles.
Thank you, Director Lee. My other question, I guess it's more just to the language on this item where it talks about on page 53 from the city's traffic services team that they found the assessment in the surrounding network acceptable. How do we determine what is acceptable around that network, especially when school pick-up, drop-off times? It is one crazy period there.
Mr Lee or Mr Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I might start with an answer, and if Mr Singh has anything to add, he can. I think, and it was pointed out in the deputation, part of the observations is comparing what the potential impact from the rezoning would have on a surrounding traffic, on the surrounding road network versus what the site's currently zoned for. A residential subdivision, when you look at the traffic modelling, you look at an AM and PM peak that is, for AM it's spread across 7 AM to 9 AM, the PM peak spread across 4 PM to 6 PM. And so I think the point that was made in the deputation that the traffic impacts that would come from a residential subdivision of this site would be softer, if you like, than if the site was developed as the current zoning allows for an educational type purpose, when there is a very sharp peak already that the development of the site for an education purpose would increase. I think also the spread of traffic would therefore see lower volume numbers when there's already pressure on the surrounding network. So in that context, coupled with the fact that the overall trip generation of being 440 vehicles per day, estimated based on the 55 lot outcome, is capable of being accommodated in the current road network based on the volumes it's experiencing.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Mr Singh, do you have anything to add to that?
No, Mayor, Director Lee has explained it pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, if you finished asking questions. Okay, I'll go to Councillor Bedworth because it's his ward. Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor, and through yourself, just while we're on traffic volumes, Mr Lee, whilst I respect what you're saying about the spread of vehicles across the day rather than at school pick-up and drop-off, it's still an increase in traffic volume nonetheless. Now, I know that the intersection at Marmion and Quinns Road is already at failure point, in my opinion, having been through there a few times, living locally. What assurances can yourselves give this council that, you know, as and when we get to a more granular sort of modelling scenario with the traffic impact assessment, that we could potentially look for and, you know, gain certain road traffic infrastructure improvements based on working with Main Roads and the proponent in this regards?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I think the reassurances I can give you is that there will be a requirement for more detailed modelling to be undertaken at subsequent stages. So where we're at the moment, we are looking at a rezoning. So effectively, we're looking to apply a fairly broad zoning to the land, to residential. But what will come next, assuming the rezoning does go through eventually, will be the requirement for a subdivision application. That subdivision application will be far more detailed. It will have the road network outlined, we'll know how many dwellings are being, or how many lots are being proposed, and that'll have to be supported by more detailed traffic modelling. And so through that process, we'll be able to understand at a finer level of detail what the impact on the surrounding road network and particularly the intersections would be. Thank you. Councillor Bedworth.
Thanks very much for that. That's great. And I'm just going to jump to the DFIS advice, if you bear with me. Just find it on page 52. It says that the DFIS have said that the bushfire management plan didn't demonstrate compliance with the state planning policy SPP 3.7. What gives you confidence that this is a matter of detail only rather than a more fundamental constraint on the rezoning application?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you. Mayor, I might ask the Manager of Approval Services to answer that one.
Mr DeBeckis.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The bushfire management plan submitted was effectively considered to not be sufficient because they didn't provide sufficient amount of detail on the classification of vegetation in the surrounding area. But because this is a scheme amendment and not a proposal for subdivision, there is no requirement for them to get down to that level of detail, just a level of detail to make us, to satisfy us that they can provide a bushfire management plan that can be satisfactory at a subdivision stage, and they've passed that test. And so we're comfortable with that finer grain of detail at the subdivision stage, that they'll be able to deal with that through the design of the subdivision.
Thank you, Mr DeBeckis. Is there any other questions? Councillor Bedworth. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got one question in regards to the loss of parking embayments through the road network that's being proposed. Is there any conditions at the moment, or has administration considered around to make up for the lost parking embayments? Is there any plans for that at the moment?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Not something that we could do through this process, because at the moment we have we are looking just at the rezoning, but it is something that we're mindful of and we have talked about internally, as to acknowledging that there likely will be a loss of bays, because there will need to be access roads created off Salerno Drive to get into the site. What we'd intend to do through the subdivision process, and most likely ahead of any formal subdivision being lodged, is have a conversation with the applicant to see where there might be opportunities to win some bays back. We accept that some will have to go from Salerno Drive, but if there's opportunities to pick some up within the site, that is something that we'll have that conversation at the time with the applicant. I think there's also been some mention of the remnant piece of private community purpose site that's intended to be retained through the rezoning process, could be used as overflow parking at times as well. Whilst that is unlikely to be formalised, that would provide an opportunity, at least in very high peaks.
Thank you, Mr Lee. I'll now go to the ward councillor, Councillor Berry. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got 5 questions. The first one is on page 55. Based on the considerations, it is concluded that vegetation impacts can be appropriately managed through a subdivision process. How would they be managed, please?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'll invite Mr De Vecchis to answer that question, if I may.
Mr De Vecchis.
As part of the subdivision application, we'll review the vegetation on site. The highest quality vegetation will be retained, will likely be retained through public open space location. So that's how we will retain vegetation up to about 10% in terms of area of the public open space, noting that this application for residential development will actually result in some retention of land. The current zoning could likely result in no retention of vegetation on the site, only that 8% of the site is landscaped through a development application. So this proposal does represent a higher level of vegetation retention than currently stands.
Thank you, Mr De Vecchis. Councillor Berry.
Thank you. My second question relates to page 61, and it's where we had some public submissions. It's the second public submission. I myself have never seen any wildlife on that area, and I live fairly near it. Has anybody, or are you able to answer, has there been a report done to confirm that black cockatoos, carnaby and redtail use that bushland? Thank you.
Mr De Vecchis or Mr Lee? Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the time. I don't believe there will be an obligation for them to undertake that work under at least our legislation. There may be some obligations they need to satisfy themselves about whether or not there's any detail at a federal level. But what I think we can do, Councillor Berry, is have a conversation with the applicant to understand what their intentions are around undertaking any sort of surveys for any fauna on site.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Councillor Berry.
Thank you. My next question I did mention today, and it's regarding something that was suggested a few years ago, and that was to make Salerno Drive one way, and then you go up Anchorage and Elliston Parade one way coming down. Is that still a proposal that is liable to be, I suppose, looked at again by this council, and would it impact this development? Thank you.
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. What I might do, unless Director Singh has some information this evening, well, I'm happy to take the question on notice, but I'll give Director Singh the opportunity to answer it this evening. I think fundamentally, to answer your last question as to whether or not that would impact the development, if there was a situation where Salerno Drive became a one-way traffic movement, then it would impact the site in one way, insofar as they, depending which way Salerno Drive went, they wouldn't be able to go the other way, whereas at the moment they have two-way access. But if I may, Mayor, through you, invite Mr Singh to answer.
Mr Singh.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. City of Wanneroo has undertaken some previous studies in that particular school precinct, which includes Salerno Drive. There were a number of options looked at that one. I think the current road network, with the modifications we have made in the last few years, including modifications at the intersection and some improvements for the intersection of Queen's Road and Marvin Avenue, they were the recommended actions which we have implemented from the previous work. So at this stage, there is no proposal on the table which requires or being considered to make it one way at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Berry.
Thank you. My next question relates to the crash assessments that start on page 101, 2.6, and it gives us quite a lot of detail about how many crashes there have been. How do these statistics measure against crashes at other school sites across the city? Thank you.
Mr Lee?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I don't have any information to that detail this evening, so I'm happy to take the question on notice to see what information we can find, again, unless Mr Singh has anything to hand, but I would suspect not.
Mr Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. We'll take that on notice to find that information.
Thank you. Councillor Berry, another question?
Thank you. And my last question relates to page 114. It shows us the parking bays. If this was to go ahead, how many parking bays would be lost around the school? Thank you.
Mr Lee?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. The transport impact assessment that the applicant submitted estimated a loss of 11 bays. We would only know for sure once we have a subdivision application, so once the concept plan's been refined and we understand exactly where the intersections with Salerno Drive are going to be, we can line up where they overlap the existing bays and what bays we can reshuffle to retain as many as possible. But at the moment, the estimate is 11. It'll certainly be our intent to try and retain as many as we can.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Any other questions on this item, councillors? Councillor Vin Nguyen.
What is the timeline for the development after zoning? Have we got an indication?
Mr Lee?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I'm quite happy to ask the applicant if they have a timeline, but typically where we're at in the process at the moment, if council, when council makes a decision one way or the other later on this month, we'll forward our response to the Department of Planning. I would estimate from there, you're probably looking at maybe 3 to 6 months afterward for the Minister to make a decision on the scheme amendment itself, and then a subdivision process would be undertaken. I would estimate that would be about 90 days, and then you've got development happening on site. So at a very high level, and it's something I will clarify with the applicant, you might actually see construction starting within 12 to 18 months.
Thank you, Councillor Vin Nguyen.
Have you considered the impact if it were to change to R60, and how many dwellings would that produce?
Mr Lee?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. It's actually something I gave some thought to today, but I haven't undertaken a calculation. I'm certainly happy to provide some high-level yield assumptions as to what an R60 outcome might look like. I think when we considered the submission that suggested an R60 density code may be more appropriate, we still feel R40 is appropriate because, and I think the deputation made the point earlier, we think it strikes the right balance between providing a modest density outcome, but also balancing that against the surrounding R20 area. So there's a bit of a balance between character and achieving density outcomes.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item, councillors? Councillor Huntley?
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick one.
Just a moment, Councillor Huntley. Councillor Nguyen, can you turn your microphone off? Thank you.
I remember when this came to council in September, we did actually discuss the fact that obviously there is a lot of residential homes around here. There are some small parks, not big parks, but this is a 15-acre site, and there are a lot of animals that need to be walked. Domestic dogs, I think, spend a lot of time on here, which is probably why there's hardly any wildlife left on it. But however, is there any consideration for what we're going to do with the dogs that are going to be displaced from here?
Mr Lee?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. It's an interesting question because I suppose at the moment the land being privately owned and not for public open space, there might be a question as to whether or not people should be accessing the site to walk their dogs, but notwithstanding, people may still be doing it. I suppose what comes to mind for me is very close by on the other side of Quinns Road, there is a fairly large piece of public open space for people to use and recreate. And then I also come back to the fact that whilst there is certainly, it may be being used for dog walking at the moment, it is a parcel of land that is privately held, and it is the opportunity for the landowner to develop it how they choose to, despite the fact there will be an obligation, as pointed out before, to provide at least 10% public open space.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Councillor Berry.
I'd just like to clarify the point about dog walking. Would administration agree, even though it is private land and given it is right by Gunblossom, you probably couldn't walk a dog on that parcel of land at the moment because it is fenced off, it's completely overgrown and there's no path through it? Thank you.
Mr Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, just to clarify, Councillor Berry, are you referring to the subject site being fenced off? That is something that I'm not aware of. I would have to clarify, but if that is the case, if it is fenced and inaccessible, then I'd imagine you would struggle to walk dogs on there at the moment. But as I said, I'm not sure myself.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Are there any other questions on this item, councillors? If there are no other questions on this item, we'll just wait for Councillor Smith to come back into the room before we go on to the next item on the agenda. We now go to item 4.3, preparation of amendment number 237 to District Planning Scheme number 2, normalisation of land in the Capricorn Coastal Village agreed local structure plan number 44 and Capricorn Coastal Node agreed local structure plan number 75 areas. Do I have any questions on this item? Oh, would you like to speak to this item? You just looked up, Mr Lee.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Figg.
I actually have a declaration of impartiality, Mayor Aiken.
Go ahead.
With regard to item 4.3, I disclose that due to living within the subject area, I may have an interest or perceive to be having an interest in the matter. As a consequence, made a meal of that one. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you. Are there any questions on item 4.3? Okay, I'll go to Deputy Mayor Miles first.
Yeah, might just have a similar declaration for the OCM that I also live in the adjusted area.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. I suppose I did provide this notice to the administration. I just want to confirm for the record that the public purpose zones and environmental conservation zones will be retained. It's just a matter of, it's not a part of this amendment. So could I just confirm that for locals?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, yes, that is the case. They will be retained. I do acknowledge that sometimes with the mapping, when they are not coloured, it may give the perception that they're excluded, but the fact that they're not coloured means that they're not part of the amendment, and so they'll retain their reservation, yes.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Any other questions on item 4.3? There are no questions on item 4.3. We go to item 4.4, preparation of amendment number 238 to District Planning Scheme number 2, normalisation of land in the East Wanneroo agreed local structure plan number 4 area. Do you have any questions on this item, councillors? There are no questions on this item. Thank you very much to Mr Lee and Mr De Vecchis, and we now go to assets. Thank you, Mr Singh. Mr Singh, would you like to speak to any of the items under your directorate
Thank you, Mayor.
tonight?
No, we don't intend to speak to any of the items, but myself and Mr Gold will be happy to answer questions on 3 items.
Okay. Councillors, do I have any questions on item 4.5? Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one for administration. Does administration have any idea about the level of oversubscription to parking within the Yanchep Lagoon area, as in how much or how little parking there is for how many cars use it during those peak periods?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have the numbers of parking bays available. How they're being used, I don't have the user numbers. We generally don't collect that data.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor, and through yourself. I suppose it's pretty close to what Councillor Figg just has, but mine was going to be more around, do you have any sort of like traffic volume data for a whole day during the seasonal peaks for us to then be able to judge the provision of parking bays?
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We can definitely check our database for the traffic data we hold for various roads and see if we got data for Brazier Road. I'm pretty sure we will have. Brazier Road is a pretty long road. Whether we have for this particular section, I'm not sure, but we'll check.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item, councillors? If there are no other questions on this item, I will introduce the next item, but if anyone wants to ask any questions on item 4.6, we will need to go behind closed doors. Do any councillors have any questions on item 4.6? Okay, so long as it's not part of the attachment, go ahead, Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand that this is a pretty long project in the making. Is there a rough estimate, should this successfully pass council next week and then the tender ultimately be accepted, a time frame for when it would be open?
Mr Singh.
Estimate, thank you, Mayor. Subject to council awarding the tender, the first stage of clearing will happen in May 2026, which will be followed by the UX or search and clearance certificate. That will be around June. And we expect the civil construction to start around July and then have the construction completed by the end of this calendar year. And then which will be followed by some rehab works early from January, February onwards, may go into the wet season into 27.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If there are no other questions on this item, I now go to item 4.7, remembering the confidential attachments. Any questions on that are confidential and we need to go behind closed doors. It's about tender number 25203, Waste Transportation Services. Do I have any questions on this item? Councillor Wright, are these on the confidential attachment or on the public report?
No, on the public report, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I've just got two questions on this item, which I also provided to the administration beforehand. Can the city confirm why we are needing waste transportation services?
Mr Singh.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. As it is well known that cities' waste goes to multiple waste management facilities. The residue waste goes to Tamala Park landfill, and our recycling waste goes to one of the three facilities, which are in south and eastern side of Perth. So, and also as we're looking at the potential Tamala Park landfill reaching its capacity in next few years, very short term. So we looked at we need to transport our waste in a more efficient way to other sites. Hence, there is a need for a waste transfer station and then bulk up the waste and transport in larger trucks, that's the reason for this particular service.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just my last one. Is there a clause, obviously because the city is going through a rapid period of change with waste services, is there a clause that the city can break the contract if circumstances change, such as waste to energy or any other facilities, or are we locked in essentially?
Mr Singh.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, the short answer is yes, there are a mechanism in the documents which can be activated if needed.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item, councillors? There are no other questions on this item. Thank you, Mr Singh and Mr Gault. We have nothing from community in place this evening. We now go to corporate strategy and performance. Ms Harrison, thank you. Ms Harrison, are there any items you'd like to speak to?
Thank you, Mayor, and through yourself, no, we have 2 finance reports and 3 property reports. I have the CFO with me today and either of us are happy to answer any questions that elected members have.
Thank you. Councillors, do I have any questions on item 4.8, the financial activity statement for the period ended the 28th of February 2026? Okay, I'll go to Councillor Berry first.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got 3 questions. The first one relates to page 244. We've still got a deficit on the table at the bottom, and we've heard on several occasions that we're going to try and get back to a balanced position by year end. Is administration still working towards this? Thank you.
Ms Harrison.
Thank you, and through yourself, Mayor. Yes, administration is working very hard with all service units to try and address this before year end.
Councillor Berry.
Thank you. My second question relates to page 247 and higher overtime expenses of 224,000. What's the overtime for, please?
Ms Harrison.
Thank you, and through yourself, we've identified the 3 key areas that are contributing the most to the overtime payments are all service delivery or have relevant staffing issues at this current point in time. So if it's okay for me to disclose those, we have the waste services area, ICT and finance.
Thank you.
Councillor Berry, you have another question?
Yeah, and my next one relates to page 253, and it's Carramar Golf Course and Wanneroo Golf Course. And it says that we need additional funds for consultancy payments. The Carramar Golf Course is $500,000 of additional funds, and the other one, and the Wanneroo, is 400,000 of additional funds for consultancy payments. What are the consultancy payments for, please, for the benefit of the public?
Mr Greer.
Thank you, Mayor. Those relate to the overall projects involving the capital upgrades for the golf courses, which are items that have been to council previously.
Thank you. Councillor Berry, do you have any other questions? Any other questions on the financial activity statement? Deputy Mayor Miles.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. My question relates to page 251 and 252. It talks about how we're able to possibly pay the CBA loan off sooner because of the activity in the area, on the growth within housing in the area. Is that scheduled to be done in this financial year or in next financial year?
Bimsara.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Moyes, for the question. It was scheduled to be done in a couple of financial years into the future. However, because we have the financial capacity within the DCP, so it is worth paying the loan down now and then save interest.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Miles.
I'm not sure whether I answered the question properly. It states in the report that the financials are there now. If the planning team can resolve and pay out those 3 loans now, they can actually start to set up a new DCP for the new infrastructure. So are you suggesting then that finance would not want to pay those loans out sooner, if we can, to then move on to a new DCP?
Bimsara.
Through Mayor. No, finance do not suggest that. Reason being 2 different DCPs operate separately, so we can't transfer loans over one to another.
Deputy Mayor, do you have another clarifying question?
Yeah, maybe if I can get it, maybe it's a planning clarification, please, Mayor, that with the paying off of the Yanship Turok CBA loan sooner, we can then move on and get a new DCP done for the new infrastructure coming forward. Is that how I'm reading the statement in the report, Mayor?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I think what I'll do is take that specific question on notice so I can answer it with some detail, but what I can say is that we are already discussing internally the next iteration of a DCP for Yanchep Two Rocks. So it is front of mind for us. It's work that will probably commence, I would say, later on this year. But in terms of your specific question, that's I'll take on notice and I'll provide some detail for you.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Councillor Figg, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It's actually following on from Councillor Berry's question about the consultancy payments for the upgrades to the golf courses. My understanding is that we have essentially approved what those upgrades were and are going to be, and it was just relying on the private operator to be able to commence the works. So is there a specific item that these consultancy payments were made for, please?
Mr Greer.
Thank you, Mayor. The works are being administered by the city's golf course management contractor, so they relate to that, and then a number of subcontracts under that.
Any other questions? I'll go to... Oh, have you got another question on this, Councillor Figg?
Yes, sorry, thank you, Mayor. And it's another one just following on from Councillor Miles's line of questioning. And it's probably the only opportunity in a meeting to get to ask it prior to anything coming to us. But out of interest, why haven't we got a new DCP underway for Yanchep and Two Rocks, given that the final project that's part of it was supposed to have been delivered approximately 2 or 3 years ago, and obviously there's been some delays to it. I'm just wondering, because we're going to have a bit of a backlog coming soon if we don't have a DCP in place for new infrastructure.
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Again, I'll take that question on notice and provide some detail for elected members. My understanding of the Yanchep Two Rocks DCP is that its expiry was extended some years ago, reflecting the growth rate in the area at the time. That is now very different in terms of some really accelerated growth in the Yanchep Two Rocks area over the last couple of years. And so that's why we're at a position now where while the lifespan of the current DCP was probably longer than what is now anticipated and what's actually being demonstrated based on the uptake. But as I said, happy to take that question on notice and provide some more detail for you.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Have you any other questions, Councillor Figg? I'll go to Councillor Bedworth and then to Councillor Bedworth. Do you have a question? You had your hand up.
Yeah, just one very quick question. On page 250, I'm just looking at current receivables are sitting at over 60 million. I'm just wanting to understand that a bit better if I could. I mean, what level of confidence do we see that that's going to be collected by year end? And also, are we seeing any emerging trends in collection risk given the cost of living that we're seeing getting worse by the hour?
Bimsara or Ms Harrison? Bimsara.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So there are some pensioner collections in there. So those things cannot be collected. And our collection, we are using the third-party debt collector for those unpaid rates without any explanation. So that's been in progress, out of which a majority will be collected by financial year end. However, compared to last year, the collection is little slower than the prior years. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll go to Councillor Wright and then the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Again, I have provided notice and I did receive a response from the Director, so thank you, but I will ask the question again for all Council members, but I do have supplementary questions to the initial response I received. On page 248, there was a reference around savings from discontinuing a Wanneroo Showgrounds master plan. Can I request what was the master plan? Was it approved or seen by Council, and what is the scope of this master plan?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question, and through yourself, Mayor. As was previously commented, as staff worked really hard to reconcile towards the end of financial year, and I believe we also discussed this at Concept Forum, anything that was considered discretionary funding or didn't have a formal decision of Council was removed at this point in time. So that master plan didn't progress. The last time the Wanneroo Showgrounds master plan was a decision of council was 2004, I believe. So,
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. And just in supplementary to that response, under the former director, Ms Terralink, that was here, it was of the view at the time that the Central Ward councillors suggested that a master plan be developed due to having issues with club usage down there, and obviously what the future plan was going to be of the Wanneroo Showgrounds, and whether we continue to add infrastructure down there or remove it or focus on cultural versus sports. There was a very high-level discussion that was had at the time, and also with the manager at the time, in regards to future planning for that site. So I'm just confused as to why the administration now has discontinued that body of work, considering that we were relying on the Active Reserves Master Plan 2016, which still hasn't been addressed. And that master plan was supposed to provide some level of guidance to council on infrastructure that we, or according to our LTFP, is actually supposed to be built in 2 years' time, and that building being the Margaret Cockman Pavilion. So I'm actually interested now that we don't have any strategic guidance, why did administration remove that master plan from the budget?
Ms Davis.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to provide further clarification. As there was no formal decision of council, there was no right for that item to be carried forward. The Active Reserves Master Plan has been retired. It has been made way through the Community Facilities Framework and the now developing Community Infrastructure Plan, which then goes down and provides that next level of detail around the type of infrastructure that will be required. That infrastructure plan is to be developed. It's been currently, the tender has closed. It will take 2 years to develop. So perhaps this is something that we can discuss with you offline about progressing further.
Thank you, Ms Davis. Any other questions on this? Or Deputy Mayor Miles?
Yeah, just a couple of further little questions. Thank you, Mayor, to the finance team. On page 253, whilst I'm sure you'll probably ask Director Singh to answer it, some more money is being requested for the upgrades at Girraween Avenue, mainly for works, expanded works within the project. I just wanted to understand what the expanded works would have been to request further funding.
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have the details on hand with me. I'm happy to find that out and provide that information. As you know, the works are currently underway for that particular project, and which involve multiple aspects of the street upgrades. But I'll find out exactly where this $200,000 is required for.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Deputy Mayor Miles.
And just another one, very similar. It talks about, this is on the same page, 004421 Hartman Drive, Wangara, new pathway from Ocean Reef Road to Nangara. I was just trying to understand, it might be quite simple, that you're requesting $100,000 come from Town Planning Scheme Cell 7. Is that because that pathway crosses over 2 cells that you're requesting it from another cell?
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. That's pretty much what it is. It is a change of funding source so that we can actually allocate cost to the right cell.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Councillor Rowe, you have a question?
No, thank you, Mayor. It's now been asked.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, are there any more questions on this item? If there are no questions on that item, I go to item 4.9, warrant of payments for the period to the 28th of February 2026. Do I have any questions on this? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got 2 questions on this item, both which have been provided to administration in advance. On page 318, which is what I'm referencing, transactions 102.15 to 102.22. Can I request what the Mayor and CEO trip to Canberra was about, what the agenda was and what outcomes were achieved from their visit for the city?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Wright, and also thank you for the heads up so we were able to do a bit of prep. Really appreciate that. We provided an update in the Wanneroo RAP dated 5th of December, so I'm just going to read from that particular document, and you can certainly go back and refer to that. So as part of our ongoing advocacy efforts to build relationships with federal parliamentarians, we travelled to Canberra for several meetings scheduled with 6 senators, including Senator James McGrath, Senator Matt O'Sullivan, Senator Ellie Whittaker, Senator Anne Rushton, Senator Bridget McKenzie and Senator Varun Ghosh. Unfortunately, Senator James McGrath was unwell, so the meeting went ahead with his Chief of Staff, and also Senator Matt O'Sullivan was there. Unfortunately, the meetings with Senator Ellie Whittaker and also Senator Varun Ghosh were last-minute cancellations, which was not uncommon given Parliament was sitting. It was their last week for the year. Despite the setback, the other meetings were successful, with the Mayor and CEO receiving feedback on the city's advocacy efforts and useful advice on how to proceed with future initiatives. For example, some of the feedback included ensuring that the city focused on 1 or 2 key priorities rather than going for a scattergun approach and putting forward a wide number of initiatives. The advocacy team committed to incorporating that feedback as part of, obviously, the review process and to get better for the next round of elections. And whilst the Mayor and I were also over there, we attended the Australian Local Government Association function to discuss the delivery of affordable housing. And Alga have subsequently prepared a guide for local councils on this that was well attended. So that was the purpose of that trip.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions, Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more. Transaction 102.27 on the same page. I'm interested as to the transaction and the purpose of the CEO, Mayor and Director having a lunch with Acumen Solutions. Again, same as my previous question, what was the meeting about? What was the agenda/scope of the conversation? And what outcomes were being requested from the meeting?
Thank you again, Councillor Wright, for the questions. With regard to that particular meeting, the Mayor, myself, and at the time, the Director of Planning and Sustainability wasn't an employee of the City of Wanneroo, was Joondalup and about to commence, but we thought it was a good opportunity to meet with Acumen. The purpose of that lunch meeting was to acknowledge the opening of the Yanchep Beach Club, so both the City and Acumen worked incredibly hard to get that facility up and running, which has been of huge benefit to the people of Yanchep. And also their chairperson was visiting from interstate and we'd yet to meet that particular individual. Also a great opportunity to introduce our new Director of Planning and Sustainability. When we attend such meetings, we certainly don't go down to a level of detail. It is about relationship building. It is about meeting with key stakeholders and building strong relationships. The city, in this instance, always will pay for our people, and in this instance it was the Mayor, myself and the soon-to-be Director of Planning. The reason we do that is so that it does appear in the warrant for payment, so there is transparency. We say who we're meeting with and we obviously want it out in the open. We're not trying to hide anything. And just to confirm that no hospitality or gifts were received from Acumen.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Wright.
And thank you, Mayor. Just a supplementary on the answer. Can the city provide any advice in regards to elected members meeting with developers? I know when I did some training at Walga, I was advised that it's highly discouraged to be able to meet with developers just in case projects from time to time. And I'm looking at Acumen's website. They've got Capricorn Beach, Atlantis Beach, Two Rocks, Salita Estate in Lansdale and Garden Park Grove in Sanagra, which I know some of them are actually still in progress at this time and may have future items coming to council. So I'm just curious as to the guidance that the city has in providing elected members that, and from the description that the CEO just said, to me that would be an operational meeting. So I'm just curious as to why elected members would be present, or if that would be extended to all of council.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I probably won't go into that level of detail now, but if you're okay with it, we might provide a bit of an update in the RAP for all elected members on how to conduct and facilitate those meetings moving forward.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? There are no other questions on the warrant of payments. We now go to item 410, Property Services, proposed closure of unconstructed road reserve, lot 201 Neves Road, Marriginia. Are there any questions on that item? I'll just wait for Mr Greer to get to the table. Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one very quick question. I just, in regards to the the item, I'd just like to have it confirmed that there's no longer-term service and or access requirements identified for this reserve beyond the current planning assumptions.
Mr Greer.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. No, they're not understood to be any. That's already been part of the investigations.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.10? If there are no questions on item 4.10, 4.11, proposed closure of unconstructed road reserve Tapping Street. Any questions on that item? If there are no questions on that item, we go to item 4.12, proposed dedication of land as road reserve, lot 11911 and lot 12339, Ocean Reef Road, Pearsall. Any questions on that item? Deputy Mayor Miles.
Yeah, just a question for the record. Thank you, Mayor. That's a fairly large sump, water sump, servicing obviously Ocean Reef Road. Is Main Roads wanting to take it so they can use the sump further, or are they going to use it to extend the road? I was just concerned that the land is currently being used extensively for water. Where's that water going to go if it becomes a road?
Mr Greer.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. No, it's really just a correction of the land tenure. The road reserve would ordinarily include drainage areas in some cases as well, and what they're trying to do is have the intersection reflect the road and the adjoining areas that are needed for that.
Thank you. Any other questions on that item? If there are no other questions on that item, we go to the Chief Executive Office. Do you have a question, Councillor Wright, on this item? Councillor
Thank you, Mayor. Could I just confirm as to why Councillor Berry left? Was there any reasoning provided by the councillor for leaving those three groups?
Ms Coles will respond to that.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Wright. No particular reason was provided, so councillors can resign from committees without providing reasons.
Thank you. We now go to, we mention item 4.13, appointment of a council member as delegate to the festival and cultural events, Roadwise and Yanchep Coastal Management Advisory Groups. That will be dealt with at the ordinary council meeting. Motions on notice. We have a few coming up. We've got 5.1 from Councillor Bedworth, review of the electronic attendance at meetings policy. 5.2, Councillor Rowe, request for the city's 3-year strategic internal audit plan review. We've also got a motion on notice from Councillor Huntley, urgent reform and state support for wildlife care and translocation in high-growth urban corridors. Councillor Miles, establishment of a community media and marketing advisory group. Councillor Bedworth, King Neptune Public Open Space. That's Councillor Figg. Oh, that is Councillor Figg. Sorry, Councillor Bedworth. This is in my run sheet. Just something extra for you, Councillor Bedworth. And Councillor Berry, the Quinns Rocks Fishing Platform. Item 6, we have late reports. We have item 6.1, a renewable energy facility business case, which is a confidential report, which will be a late report, which will be tabled. And it did go through the Revenue Review Committee last night. Item 7, confidential, there is nil. Item 8, the date of the next meeting. The next ordinary council meeting has been scheduled for 6 p.m. on Tuesday, 28th of April 2026, to be held at Council Chamber, Level 1, Civic Centre, 23 Dundebar Road, Wanneroo. Item 9, closure. Thank you everyone for your attendance, and I now declare the agenda briefing meeting closed at 19:04. Thank you.